and it's not your fault. Like, because we got these rail trails around here. This actually happened to my son. He was at the stop sign, and the woman riding the bike didn't stop at the stop sign on the trail. She hit the rear quarter panel of the Jeep. So you could tell that, she ran into the back end. He was in there first. But in New York State, it's a no-fault state, and pedestrians so would you want to touch a little bit just on that if you
Sure.
because bicycles are all over the roads right now.
Sure. So I know you start with pedestrians and you kind of merged into bikes. I'll try to touch on both. So,
Okay.
Pedestrians and bicyclists have to follow the rules of the road too. Pedestrians and bicyclists are going to be granted the right of way versus a car. So motorists obviously need to be mindful when they encounter bicyclists and pedestrians on the roads. I mean, they're shared roadways. We see a lot of those signs around here. But can pedestrians bear culpability or bear responsibility for their own actions in causing an accident? The answer is yes. And the same goes for bicyclists. Just because you're on foot or on a bike doesn't give you carte blanche or free range to do whatever and whatever you want. That's just not the way it works. That being said, ultimately, as a driver, you are going to want to use as much caution and care as you possibly can. I recognize that even under the most dangerous or emergency style circumstances, there's only so much you can do. If a child darts out in front of your car between two parked cars and you slam on the brakes a split second later, but you still hit the child, what's going to happen? If a bicyclist is, operating his or her bike correctly, but then at the last second slips or maybe hits something slick on the road and then slams into your car, even though you've done nothing wrong, what's going to happen? Well, you can probably guess what's going to happen, because those people could be very hurt and they're going to be looking to protect themselves and their options as best as possible. How those cases break down really varies on a case-by-case basis. They can be tricky. They can be upsetting, especially if you feel that you've done nothing wrong. I've been on both sides of those cases. I get it. But please understand that as the motorist of a heavy vehicle, you are ultimately going to be looked at as the one who perhaps had the best opportunity to avoid something happening in the first place. I know it may seem counterintuitive, but everyone's going to be looking at you as the motorist. So you got to do everything you can to make sure you're following the rules of the road and just using common sense precautions. But I understand sometimes that even when the driver might be free of fault and still is on the short end of a lawsuit or a claim, it can be very frustrating. But please bear in mind, those circumstances usually involve people who've been badly hurt and they're looking to protect themselves the same way you would if something like that happened to you or someone you cared about.